Welcome back to the BrainBubble channel. Today we're diving straight into the fascinating, constantly evolving science behind exactly why we dream. It's a topic that has literally puzzled philosophers for millennia. But as we're going to see in this explainer, modern science is finally starting to crack the code.
Think about it for a second. Why do we spend roughly 2 hours every single night hallucinating? It's this wild, universal human experience. We spent roughly a third of our lives asleep, and every single night for about 2 hours, your brain creates these vivid sensory experiences, intense emotional narratives, and sometimes completely bizarre scenarios that feel 100% real in the moment. Yet, despite mapping brain activity and sleep cycles, scientists are actually still debating its exact biological and psychological purpose.
Let's put some numbers to the sheer scale of this phenomenon. The average person experiences about 1,460 dreams a year. That equates to roughly 4 dreams a night. Actually, it's basically 4 completely different virtual reality movies playing in your head every single night, ranging from the mundane, like just sitting in your office, to the absolutely terrifying, like running from a predator. That is a massive amount of cognitive energy being spent while we're supposedly just resting.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer today. We'll cover the mystery of dreams, Freud, Jung, and meaning, biology and random noise, simulating threats for survival, the overfitted brain, and finally, lucid dreams and disorders.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, Freud, Jung, and meaning, the psychological era.
It's crazy how much our technological advancements over the past century have fundamentally shifted our understanding of the sleeping brain. For a really long time, the study of dreams was entirely dominated by early 20th century psychoanalysts. We started in 1900 with Freud, but then the discovery of REM sleep in 1953 pushed us into biology. The 70s gave us neurological models, and by 2020, we're literally using computer science to understand our own minds.
Zooming in on that early psychological era, we find a fascinating contrast between two huge pioneers. Sigmund Freud published The Interpretation of Dreams in 1900, arguing that dreams were essentially wish fulfillment, safely disguising our unacceptable or troubling unconscious urges. On the other hand, Carl Jung believed they served a much broader purpose, connecting us to a deeper collective unconscious, filled with universal human archetypes. But, despite their differences, both of them believed dreams were absolutely loaded with hidden meaning.
But that narrative radically shifted in the mid-20th century. That brings us to part 2, biology and random noise, driven by the discovery of REM sleep. So, in 1977, Harvard psychiatrist Hobson and McCarley proposed the activation synthesis hypothesis. This theory suggests that dreams result from the forebrain attempting to make sense of random neural electrical noise originating in the brainstem during REM sleep. Basically, during REM, your brainstem, specifically the pons, just fires off random neural impulses. Your forebrain then steps in and desperately tries to synthesize this random static into a coherent story. So this model essentially suggested that dreams mean absolutely nothing at all. They're just a biological byproduct of active brain physiology.
It's kind of like trying to find a beautiful, complex melody in a completely random mash of piano notes. Your brain is a meaning-making machine. Even when the input is entirely meaningless, neurological static, it just can't help but try to improvise a coherent narrative. And honestly, that perfectly explains the bizarre, illogical combinations and those sudden, jarring scene shifts we all experience when dreaming.
But pure randomness didn't satisfy everyone for long. Let's move to part 3, simulating threats for survival, looking at it through the lens of evolutionary psychology.
Enter cognitive neuroscientist Ani Revensuo and his threat simulation theory. He asks a great question. What if, instead of just random noise, our brains are essentially running vital evolutionary fire drills? The idea is that because we're safely paralyzed during REM sleep, our mind creates a virtual reality simulation to rehearse fight or flight responses, which better prepares us for actual real-world waking dangers.
This perfectly explains why our dreams are so often incredibly stressful, right? Being chased by a monster, falling from the sky, drowning, or wandering completely lost. Cross-cultural surveys show these are the most typical dream themes globally. And empirical research backs this up, showing that fear and anger are actually the most common emotions experienced in dreams. It's an evolved psychological adaptation focused entirely on survival and, avoiding social embarrassment.
Now, let's look at how modern tech is influencing this. Part 4, the overfitted brain and the computational age.
This is where things get really mind-bending.
Neuroscientist Eric Hull developed the overfitted brain hypothesis by looking at artificial intelligence. Think about AI for a second. If you train a neural network on data that is too repetitive, it becomes incredibly rigid and overfitted, meaning it completely loses its ability to handle new, unexpected situations. Programmers fix this by deliberately injecting noise or randomness into the data. Hull suggests our biological human brains face the exact same problem. Because our daily routines are so boring and statistically similar day after day, our brains inject wild, creative randomness at night to keep our minds from becoming too rigid.
Howell sums it up perfectly. He states, "It is the very strangeness of dreams and their divergence from waking experience that gives them their biological function." So what this means is that the bizarre, hallucinatory quality of your dreams isn't a glitch in the system. It's a vital feature. The weirdness is exactly what keeps your cognition flexible and highly capable of generalizing knowledge to entirely new, unexpected situations.
So, taking all this in, where does science stand today? Well, we embrace synthesis over conflict now. It's highly likely that dreaming isn't just doing one single thing. It is simultaneously consolidating our memories, regulating our complex emotions, rehearsing those critical threat responses, and preventing cognitive overfitting. It basically acts as a brilliant biological multi-tool that is absolutely vital for a healthy, functioning mind.
Let's bring this all back to the real world. Part 5. Lucid dreams and disorders and their clinical applications.
One of the most fascinating applications here is lucid dreaming, where you actually become aware you're dreaming while you are inside the dream. Psychophysiologist Dr. Stephen LaBerge pioneered techniques like reality testing. It's a surprisingly simple process. Ask yourself, am I dreaming? Check your environment to confirm, and actively notice your own consciousness. By practicing these metacognitive steps during the day, individuals can enhance the prefrontal cortex's role and train themselves to achieve lucidity at night. And in clinical settings, giving patients active control over their dream narratives is currently being used to treat PTSD and recurring nightmares. It's a real game changer.
On the flip side, we learn a massive amount when these biological mechanisms actually fail. For instance, medical science now recognizes REM sleep behavior disorder, or RBD, as a critical preclinical marker for neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's. While a parasomnia might just seem like a simple sleep disruption on the surface, it can actually signal much more deeply rooted neurological changes.
Here's the mechanics of why that happens. Normally, your brain literally paralyzes your body during REM sleep, a state called atonia, so you don't physically act out those virtual reality simulations we talked about earlier. RBD patients lack this paralysis, causing them to physically and sometimes very violently act out their dreams. Identifying this dangerous lack of sleep paralysis early on in general practice is absolutely imperative for planning future neuroprotective strategies before deeper neurological decline occurs.
We've covered a ton of ground in this explainer today, moving all the way from ancient interpretations to AI-inspired neuroscience. So I want to leave you with this final thought. As you drift off to sleep tonight and your brain begins its 2-hour hallucinatory shift, consider this. Will your mind be archiving today's memories, running primal survival drills, or battling the rigidity of your daily routine through a bizarre, chaotic adventure? What is your brain preparing you for tonight?
Wow, we're already at the end of the video! Come on, watch other fun videos too, and don't forget to click subscribe to the BrainBubble channel.